Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my The Gifted Season 2 videos. So we've got ourselves the synopsis of two future episodes, episode 11 which should be airing Tuesday, and episode 12 which should be airing in 2 weeks. But as per the usual, and without wasting any more time doing introductions to this video, let's get started with this, let's go. So the header part of the synopsis for episode 11 reads, Lorna begins to reconsider on an all-new The Gifted, Tuesday, January 8 on Fox. The body of the synopsis though goes to elaborate on this and more as it reads, Reed worries as Lauren becomes intrigued by her ancestors and their violent powers. Lorna begins to reevaluate her trust in the inner circle after figuring out the past of Reva's new trainees. Meanwhile, Benedict Tryon continues to encourage Jace to take action with the Purifiers. Marcos asks Clarice to go to the Morlocks in search of information on the inner circle, and Thunderbird gets a call from Evangeline in the all-new meMento episode of The Gifted, airing Tuesday, January 8th. Now, I'm not trying to act like the smartest guy in the room, because the synopsis in my opinion is pretty self-explanatory, but what I want to do over here in terms of breakdown is talk about the synopsis, the trailer of episode 11, what we know out of it, and of course put it all side by side with all the theories that we've built so far based on our viewership of the first 10 episodes of the season. So number 1, Reed worries as Lauren becomes intrigued by her ancestors and their violent powers. Now I'm sure all of you have already watched the trailer for episode 11, and it is pretty obvious from that trailer that Lauren is getting more violent. It has already been foreshadowed as well that she's going to be getting more powerful based on the fact that she's got 2 versions of the X gene, as per what Madeline Risman discovered at some point during the events of the mid-season finale. Considering the events of the winter/mid-season premiere as well, Lauren has come to observe something horrid when it comes to the hatred that the Purifiers have towards mutants. On the same episode as well, Andy tries to influence Lauren. He tries to speak to her emotions. He just tells her all about Rebecca, the fact that she was given up by her parents to Sentinel services and spent her life tortured, and ended up dead as well. Now, he did not really want to go further into the details of how she died, either because it's 1, emotional for him, or 2, that would negate the purpose. If his objective out of this was to either bond with his sister and gain her sympathy, or to influence her into believing in what he believes, then telling her that he killed Rebecca in order to protect the leadership of the inner circle, that wouldn't really sell his story. So yes, since the mid-season finale, and even before getting to watch episode 10 or the trailer for episode 11, we were led to believe that Lauren is probably going to end up going darker, even if temporarily, but she's going to be going darker. Number 2, the newly found darkness in Lauren. It does not necessarily mean that she's gonna go dark to the extent of joining in with the inner circle. I mean, based on the trailer of episode 11, she's still working with the underground. So what I'm thinking over here is there are 2 possibilities. She might actually cross over and join in with the inner circle, that kind of darkness, or she might just be adopting the very same methodologies used by Andy in her fight with the inner circle. Now obviously, the cause is gonna be this newly found fascination with her ancestors and their powers, but even though we're gonna be crossing that bridge when we get to it, if that were to be the case and the only cause, then based on her objections to Andy and his fascination with the Fenris twins and their powers, she's a little bit of a hypocrite. But next up though is Lorna, and number 3. Lorna begins to reevaluate her trust in the inner circle after figuring out the past of Reva's new trainees. Now the very first question that comes to mind over here is, who are these new trainees? I'm assuming they are the portion that Reva could get to out of all those people that escaped all those prisons and facilities after the mutant control collars have been disabled. I'm assuming as well that while some of these mutants might have been unjustly incarcerated, some others are actual criminals, and I'm thinking the group that Reva would recruit in this case would be of the criminal kind. So Lorna, who still loves Marcos, the very same woman who just had a great experience with Marcos and Thunderbird, her good old friends, she's just hanging in there with the inner circle by a thread, and if she were to discover that they are shadier than she expected, that would definitely have her start questioning shit, start thinking twice, and possibly getting a step closer towards a redemption arc and getting back into the arms of the underground. But number 4, Benedict Tryon continues to encourage Jace to take action with the Purifiers. Now I would talk about this one a lot, but honestly, my expectations for Jace, my predictions for Jace since the beginning of the season have always been failing. It is frustrating, by the way, because, yeah, Jace is kind of an enigma. He has these principles, he has this moral code, he's trying to build on it, but then he always fails and falls into the Purifiers trap and ends up doing the wrong thing. But anyway, to cut a long story short, this could mean either one of two things. One, Jace might be having a little bit of doubt after his encounter with John Proudstar, after doing what he had to do at that point out of anger. I would think that Ryan would notice, and I would think that he wouldn't want that to happen because Jace has become that face. The good face, the well-spoken face of the Purifiers in the media. But there's also two, Turner is still angry, he's still hateful, he still wants to do all of this. They, and by they I mean Ryan and the Purifiers, just want to push him a little bit further into the machine of violence. Moving on though, number 5, Marcos asks Clarice to go to the Morlocks in search of information on the Inner Circle, and Thunderbird gets a call from Evangeline in the all-new meMento. So there is really a lot in that final statement of the synopsis, but I think it could be covered briefly. For one, Marcos asking Clarice to go to the Morlocks, I think that is either a step on the way to getting the Morlocks on the underground side and using them to fight the Inner Circle, or it is a plot device to serve that theory, fulfill the theory that Clarice would end up joining up with the Morlocks. This episode seems to also mark the return of Evangeline Whedon, aka VANGE, to the series. Honestly though, I think the arc with Evangeline Whedon on this episode is gonna be a minor one. Just a re-entry point for her on the series because she's gonna be playing a bigger role on episode 12 and based on its synopsis. That means that we gotta start talking about our expectations based on the synopsis of episode 12, the header of which reads, "The situation turns dire on an all-new The Gifted Tuesday, January 15th on Fox." The more informative part of the synopsis though, the body of the synopsis, does read, with the Inner Circle and the Purifiers on the rise and the nation more divided than ever, the dream of the X-Men is on the verge of failure. In attempts to revive the mutant underground, Evangeline proposes a countrywide meeting. Meanwhile, Lauren and Andy continue to disagree in their dreams and the Frost sisters attempt to intervene. Caitlin makes the risky suggestion of connecting with a family member for vital intel, and Lorna tries to secretly investigate Reva's plans for the Inner Circle in the all-new home episode of The Gifted, airing Tuesday, January 15th. So number 1, it seems that they are gonna succeed, the Purifiers are gonna succeed in keeping Jace at bay as of the end of episode 11. The part from the synopsis of episode 11 where Benedict Trine is trying to work him, trying to make sure that he continues to do whatever he's doing with the Purifiers and trying to make sure that he even does more, that's gonna succeed. The Purifiers are on the rise. The Inner Circle as well are gonna be on the rise. So Reva's trainees out of episode 11 are still gonna be Reva's trainees. In fact, they might be more at this point in time, so she is probably gonna be building a very strong army. The only group though, as per the usual, that's gonna be having trouble getting their shit together are gonna be the Underground. They're pretty much outnumbered as well because they are like an army of 5, which actually brings us to number 2. In attempts to revive the mutant Underground, Evangeline proposes a countrywide meeting. So what I think is happening over here is we've got a group of mutant escapees. That much has been established by the end of the mid-season finale. We've also established that some of these are good and some of them are bad, and that is based on the synopsis of episode 11 and pure logic as well. So I'm imagining that disabling the mutant control colors has basically opened up a recruitment pool for both the Inner Circle and the Underground. The Inner Circle and Reva Page are going to be recruiting the ones that are willing to go that extra violent mile. On the other hand, the Underground are going to be recruiting the ones that still have got some kind of moral and ethical code intact. I believe this is what Evangeline's proposal is going to be all about, contacting the underdogs, the ones that have been wrongfully and unjustly incarcerated for years in those prisons and facilities. But number 3 though, Caitlin makes the risky suggestion of connecting with a family member for vital intel. So I'm not really sure who this would be. It could be Ellen Strucker, Reed's mother, but I'm not really sure why contacting her would be risky and what kind of intel she could provide. I think the only reason this kind of contact would be risky is either because she's being watched by the Purifiers or she is being watched by the Sentinel services. The other option though is Daniel Reynolds, her brother, Caitlin's brother, the one we watched on season 1. Once again, I don't know what kind of intel he could give them, and the risks remain the same, being watched by either. But there is this third secret option in number 4. Lauren and Andrew continue to disagree in their dreams and the Frost sisters attempt to intervene. So one, we know that Lorna and Andy do not see eye to eye and do not agree, so it kind of makes sense that they continue to disagree in their dreams. That also explains that the chances that Lauren steps into the dark side of the inner circle because of her newly found violence is not really true. 2. Andy might actually be that risky contact, that family member that Caitlin suggests to get in contact with. 3. The shared dreams might be the way of contact. And 4. That might be risky for a lot of reasons. So for one thing, the intervention of the Frost sisters in those dreams, that's a risk on its own. There is also the fact that Andy might realize what Lauren is trying to do and hence inform the leadership of the inner circle. That would be Reva Page. But there is also the other risk. Andy giving them information might actually lead the inner circle to turn against him. That might definitely be a fear that Caitlin would have in this situation. I mean, she's trying to get information out of her son who's still with the inner circle, still living with the inner circle, and they might end up discovering that he's the one who gave up the information, whether he knew he was giving it up or not, and that might lead the inner circle to turn against him. And that would not be a good thing, because all they're trying to do over here is rescue Andy, bring him back. But finally though, number 5, Lorna tries to secretly investigate Reva's plans for the inner circle in the all-new home episode of The Gifted. So this one does not really add much because we know Lorna is investigating as of episode 11 based on the synopsis of episode 11, so there's not much here really. I think that the only indication out of the statement coming last on the synopsis and right before the title is revealed, home, is that Lorna might actually discover enough to make her go back to the underground and start helping them and working with them against the inner circle and Reva Page. As for the title of the 11th episode though, meMento, I'm not really sure what it is trying to insinuate, but there is the fact that it came in the final statement. Thunderbird gets a call from Evangeline in the all-new meMento episode. Considering Evangeline has known him for too long, knows his history and all, she might be there to remind him of something. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. She is his meMento, or she's gonna give him something that is gonna be the meMento in this episode. But that being said though, I do not think I have more to offer on these two synopses. So do let me know in the comments down below what you thought of these two synopses, what you think is going to be happening on the future episodes of The Gifted, and of course how you might think it's going to play out all the way until the end of the season. We're only 6 episodes away and it's going to be over. Let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, and if that were to be the case, you can always subscribe and enable notifications for my future videos, community posts, and live streams. Until the next time you tune in for another one of my videos, thank you so much for tuning in to this one, and have a great day.